Hello, everyone. This is Howard Klein, and I am the founder and host of CRE Radio and TV, and this is CREtV Live, December 3rd, 2020. And today we're going to be talking about, a couple of things. Repurposing COVID during and after COVID. We're not repurposing COVID. Maybe I could try to do that. Repurposing commercial real estate during and after COVID, and that'll be with Micahel Polk. The state of CRE Investments during and after COVID, that'll be with Collette Dixon. And hospitality during and post-COVID, and that is with Dr. Donald Wise. So we're going to move now to the instructions. And these instructions are for the audience. 1, comment. Let's get some interactivity here. If you got any questions of any of the audience members or me, always put a Q with a colon in front of it so that we know that it's a question. We are not giving legal advice, although I'm the only attorney on here. None of us are providing legal advice on CREtV. And for those who might be interested, since I'm an attorney, this might be considered attorney advertising. So if you think that you don't want to hear an attorney kind of promoting himself, which is what I'm doing here, then don't watch. That's the best thing I could tell you to do. So why don't we move on? Let me introduce, or have Peter Morris, my co-host, introduce himself. And Peter, you got about 1 minute.
You got it, Howard. It's Peter Morris. I'm the CEO of the Greenstead Consulting Group. We're an international commercial real estate advisory firm. We work with developers, investors, and occupiers of commercial real estate, be it in retail, office, warehouse, industrial, or multifamily. And we do that all around the world. And we are also a commercial real estate agent training firm as well. And you can find us at Greenstead Group. Just Google it. You'll find me.
Okay, now let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about our guests. Collette Dixon, and I misspelled her name. There's only one T in it, and I apologize. Collette is currently the executive, correct me if I'm wrong, the executive director of the Marshall Bennett Institute of Real Estate, which is part of Roosevelt University. She is formerly Collette, why don't you tell us briefly what you did at Prudential?
So before I took on this role at the university, I was part of what is now known as PGIM Real Estate. It used to be called Prudential Real Estate Investors, where my last role was co-head of our national dispositions platform. And prior to that, I oversaw the Midwestern new investments. I've done that. I did that over 30 years in the real estate investment management industry, and now moved on, but I'll talk about that later.
Okay, and by the way, Peter, you're getting a bald spot on the top of your head. And this is Dr. Donald Wise. I've known Dr. Wise for about 10 years. He used to run the hospitality group for CBRE, and he's now with the Turnbull Capital Group. And is basically does financing for hospitality and is very well known nationwide. Let me move on. Our other guest is Micahel Polk. He's the founder of Polk Properties. He's a commercial real estate broker based out of Southern California in Los Angeles County. He's got over 25 years worth of experience. And he is going to be talking about repurposing, not COVID, but repurposing commercial real estate. So now I want to move on to the trivia. And here's the deal. We've got 5 questions that we're going to be asking, 4 of which are going to be going to the guests. Each guest each correct answer will have 10 points. They will have approximately 10 seconds in which to answer correctly. If they don't answer it correctly, then I will have the opportunity to give one of the other guests a chance. Later on in the show, there will be a bonus question available to the audience members, and the audience member who answers the question first is the one who wins the $25 gift card. So you have to hang around. You have to be available online live in order to win it, and when I award the winner. So before we even go any further, again, I don't know why we're not getting any comments. Maybe it's a problem, so maybe I won't have to give away the $25 gift card. But this is what I would like. If you're on live, please let us know where you're watching from and put it in the comments section. If you don't know where the comments section is, write in the comments section that you don't know. That obviously doesn't make any sense. So, in any event, we're going to move on. Okay, so here we go to the first trivia question. And that first trivia question is going to Collette. What is the largest shopping mall in North America?
Mall of America in suburban Minneapolis?
Nope. But there was some relation to it. Okay.
That's true. It's
Dr. Wise, anybody else know the answer? Raise your hand. Hello,
You're on mute,
George.
Donald.
Yeah, Donald, put your microphone on. You're on mute.
You're on mute. Put it on.
Trying to be a good citizen. I would say the new the Gramesian 555 project in New Jersey, Dreamland, I believe it's called.
Nope.
I actually know the answer to this one, but I can't answer these.
Yeah.
Now that I know I got it wrong.
Yeah. Michael, you have a guess, or do I move on?
Well, I would have said Mall of America, but that was a long time ago. If they built something bigger, I'll address that when it comes to my portion of the show.
Okay. Well,
that would be lunatic.
Go ahead. Collette?
Oh, actually, it's the original development that was done in Canada by the same family.
Yes.
And that, yeah.
You're absolutely right. Although, Donald, you may be correct because my information may not include that. According to Wikipedia, the West Edmonton Mall, located in Alberta, Canada, it is the most visited mall in Canada, followed by Metrotown Mall in Burnaby, and the 23rd largest in the world. It is currently the largest shopping mall in North America and was the largest mall until 2024. Okay, Donald, this one is now for you. Okay. The Mall of America's owners are American, Scottish, Canadian, or French? You had a clue.
Well, I know I would say Canadian, but of course they're originally from Iran.
Well, you are absolutely correct. Peter, give Donald a 10 points. The mall is managed by the 555 Group, which in turn is owned by the Gramesian family, right, along with the West Edmonton Mall. 80% of the visitors to the mall are from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, and the Dakotas, Illinois, Ohio, and Canada. Well, I guess that's a lot. And the Gramesian brothers immigrated to Canada in 1959 from Iran. Okay, next question. This is for you, Michael. Trivia question number 3. All right. What was the original purpose of the needle at the top of the Empire State Building? I'll give you a few extra questions since it took...
Lightning rod. Lightning rod.
Is that your final answer?
Well, flagpole, no, lightning rod.
Wrong. Okay, let me...
No.
I know.
Okay, sorry. Raise your hands
Collette
again.
got her hand up. Collette got her hand up first.
Okay, Collette, what's the answer?
She did.
Isn't it a radio antenna?
Wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I picked these because they're not easy. And Dr. Wise.
It was originally to secure blips during the Hindenburg era.
Absolutely correct.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a great idea.
If I didn't research it, I would have had it wrong too. I would have thought that it was a radio antenna. All right, so this is what you need to do. We're moving on to the 25-point bonus questions, so anybody could win this. All right, you need to raise your hand. Since I'm reading it, Peter, you pay attention to who raises their hand first.
You betcha.
This is the bonus question. This is a bit. Oh, I can't even read it. You're right. These fonts are no good. And it's a typo. There is a building with a highway going through the 5th, 6th, and 7th floors. What country is the building located in? All right, Michael.
I'm going to have to take a guess. China would do anything, maybe, so it might be there.
Wrong. Wrong. Who's next? Anybody want to make a
Michael
guess?
was the only one who stuck his hand up. So
yeah. Anybody want to guess? Come on. You're not going to let Dr. Wise win this, Collette, are you?
I might have to. The only other place I could think this could be would be in the UAE, like in Dubai.
No. Okay, so you don't even have to answer.
Yeah, I'll get another turn. No.
Huh? How many chances do you want?
What's the answer?
I don't know.
I'm going to give you the answer. The answer is Japan. Excuse me. The Gate Tower building in Osaka, Japan, a 16-story office building. On the building's floor information board on the ground floor, the tenants for the 3 floors are listed as the Hanshin Expressway. The elevators do not stop on these floors. And I got that information from Amazing Planet. Actually, interestingly enough, they talked about it used to be a paper and coal mill that owned the property, and there was years worth of negotiations because they had already planned a highway through the property, so they compromised and had the highway go through 3 floors. And you ought to look it up because it's interesting. It's not as, it kind of makes some sense when you see it. All right, so now we're moving on. Michael, you and I are going to be, or you're going to be talking about repurposing commercial real estate. And if you could adjust your camera, Michael. There you go, so we can see your pretty face. So let me ask you these questions, Michael. We're talking about repurposing commercial real estate in COVID. Why consider repurposing of commercial real estate?
You have no choice. That's the long and short of it. Whatever we had or currently are trying to triage is not going to exist. That's my opinion, and anybody else looking at it can not really differ with it, because social distancing and that particular aspect, say you got a 10,000 square foot building, you wanted to put, I don't know, 100 people in it, just do the ratios, just say they work. But now you can only put 30 people in it. You have an existing lease. Hey, what do we do about that? Not to mention, it hasn't been codified the exact principles that we're going to use, or ways of shedding responsibility, liability, whatever you want to call it, about people visiting upon property or employees needing
Michael,
to be in possession.
Let me interrupt you for a second. When we talk about repurposing, what is it that you're talking about in terms of repurposing?
Well, if we're going to have to go to a new dynamic of online good purchases as a norm, before it was a fashion, it was quick, but now we're going to have to do it. So in order to keep the existing...
What do you mean by repurposing? Are you talking about...
What I mean by repurposing is using for totally different things.
Michael, yeah. What I'm talking about repurposing is, for instance, taking a mall and turning it into a combination of office, maybe medical, maybe industrial, versus not just changing the tenant occupancy alone. So in an office building,
I understand that. I have that be part of it, but to do this time period any justice, we have to face the facts. Whatever you come up with is not going to work until we're able to have something akin to terrorism insurance for pandemics. Other than that, somebody gets a cold, you got to shut the place down. So it's impossible to determine what use could go forward until that aspect. Now that we have a blank slate, so to speak, it's coming, it's here, trust me. We need to see what society really needs. Now, there's a lot of discussion about using these things for social service purposes, which, okay, if you want a bunch of hospitals and, low income housing, which is not a bad thing to have, but to have a full working society, you're going to have aspects in which people desire to be. And property is going to have to become a destination, meaning the uses are going to have to change because you can get everything online. So what do we do with these properties?
So let me bring you back to this, because part of the title is repurposing during and after the COVID pandemic. So are you talking about is repurposing short term or repurposing long term due to COVID?
I would say repurposing is long term for sure. Any short term measures or any tenancies that you put in, first of all, you don't know what type of tenants you're getting. You don't know their propensity to pay. You don't know anything about them. All you know is you want to cut your burn, and that's all you know. So a lot of people are going to take on tenants like that because they've got to make whatever requisite income to maintain their lifestyle. But they're going to have to change their lifestyle. They're going to have to change their lifestyle to being creative. The only way we're going to get out this mess is create. Now, there's a company. It's called Anew, A-N-E-W, Anew. These guys, one of the founders of it started the Temple House in Miami. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this place, but he's got a projection system. Basically, you can take an empty shell of a building, vanilla, suggest that, hey, what environment do you want? Okay, you would like to be in San Tropez. Okay, bring the set pieces, beaming on the structure. These things are very costly to install, but what it allows you to do is have a destination that'll be calced out for whatever social distancing needs. That changes. So as opposed to being, we have to go over here for this experience, got to go over there for that experience, you can come to the one location and experience changes. And remember, Disney is only known for Imagineering. You got to get Disney style with this.
So what are the two major roadblocks to repurposing?
Pandemic insurance and shedding of the liability, and creativity. Okay. And the banks. Now, the banks can say all that, whatever you blather about is good and fine, but these guys owe us money. So if the municipalities move and say some old burnt out mall and wherever you in the middle, pick a city, it doesn't matter. Oh, has debt on it. The tenants have failed. They've gone bankrupt, force majeure, whatever it is. There's nothing there to anchor them. You have no anchor tenants, but you still have debt. The city says, well, we can make it some nice thing to help whoever lives here or whatever, but what do you do about the bank? That's the impediment. Are the banks going to buy into this? Because really, we could talk about it, but they own it. Unless you're, like the gentleman in Canada with the biggest mall in the world. And I hope they have debt on it, because that thing could be, I don't know what the circumstance could be.
Here's my thought. I believe, and then we're going to go to the question and answer. I believe that the greatest impediment to repurposing, or there are two, and we can ask our other panelists, cost and longevity, and perhaps zoning, because it all has to get improved. So, Collette, what are your thoughts?
I think that there are some property sectors that are going to be more readily repurposed in the midst of this, and others are probably going to find themselves in the case of being demolished. That repurposing is not the universal answer to take every vacant property and turn it into something else. The idea, though, that we have to start imagining how we can use vacant malls, how we will be able to use, office buildings that may not be in the best locations or not the best of the best, and that their vacancy is something that's going to be pretty structural. What does that become? There are going to have to be some considerations of alternative uses of converting things to more demand driven, availabilities. I mean, healthcare, some sort of e-commerce that can be driven by, technology or housing. But there will be a need to do some of that after COVID. And that only is after we figure out what the impact is after COVID. Right now,
Right.
It's all speculation.
Yeah, right now.
But what about the banks? What about the banks? That's nice what you say, and I appreciate that. And I don't know what those uses you suggest are, but we don't want a society just filled with public service uses. It's got to be something better than that. People have to aspire. Well, I'm just saying people have to aspire to something better than just being okay. And I'm not. So that's where the Imagineering is going to have to come in. And then there's still the banks. The banks can say, well, you're not tearing down our mall. We've got debt on that. And the municipality's going to say, but it's a blight. We're not getting any income, yada, yada, yada. But what the truth of it is, the bank is the one that's running this deal. So what do we do about that?
I don't have an answer to that. Dr. Wise, you're going to be talking about hospitality. What is there? I mean, there's going to be a real bloodletting in hospitality. I mean, you gave me a list of all the things that are going on, and it wasn't a pretty list. All right, so the question is, will they be able to repurpose some of the hotels that are going to go under, or do they need to?
No, they absolutely need to. To Colette's point, we won't know the answers to the riddle here until for 3 to 5 years. We've got to be on the backside of this pandemic before we can even figure out what's going on right now. We have, multiple paradigm shifts are going to happen. Again, we don't know what those are yet. We've said for years in the hospitality industry that we're not overbuilt, we're under demolished. And you're going to see that coming out of COVID. You're going to see 10% of the hotels in the country probably are not going to reopen.
Wow.
Many of those are going to be converted to other types of uses. You're going to see situations such as a project we're working on right now near a major airport, functionally obsolete hotel, scrape it and make condos. The biggest issue I see, Howard, is the zoning issue, especially in California. The other places, maybe not so much. But you're talking about taking the hotel case, a commercial zone, to usually some sort of residential zone.
Can we talk about this as part of your presentation at this point? I want to save that for you because you're raising some really good points.
Can I make a quick point though?
Yes, Peter, I'm sorry.
Not a problem. It speaks to what all three of the guests have talked about, and you touched on as well. There's impediments. So I see the impediments being financial, not knowing what the end result of COVID is going to be, and also government and regulations and governments. I think that and I'm sure the Dr. Weiss is going to talk about this, but when I'm talking to people about, is hotel a good investment as we look at COVID and relatively inexpensive prices for some of these assets that are on the market, they're selling at a discount. I'm telling people you got to go in with a plan of doing something else with that property, not necessarily as that. And to Michael's point about financing and banks, I think that what we're going to see is we're going to see a change in ownership of a lot of these properties that are not doing well. And that's going to take care of some of the financing problems, because you're going to end up with fresh financing on some of this as well. And it's going to come up with, as he said, Imagineering, fresh ideas, fresh ways of looking at things. But I agree 100% with all the guests. We're not going to know yet where this is going to shake out. We're going to have to wait a couple years at least, and Dr. Weiss is probably more accurate, 3 to 5 years before finding out exactly what this is going to end up looking like.
Yeah, we'll get to Dr. Weiss's dry powder article, which I'll raise. Collette, Hi.
Yeah.
Could you adjust your
Hi.
camera or move up a little bit? There you go.
There you go. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Would you tell us a little bit about the Marshall Bennett Institute and why? Well, who is it for, and why should someone consider an advanced degree in real estate from Roosevelt University or some other school?
Well, I don't want to acknowledge that there are other schools, but
Okay,
yeah,
that's fair.
the Marshall Bennett Institute was developed about 20 years ago for the purpose of housing real estate education and for the purpose of helping to develop real estate leaders, ideally for the city of Chicago and beyond. It was believed that you can enter this industry, and I know for a fact many people entered this industry somewhat by chance. They did not come into the industry with a huge amount of pre-existing knowledge. A lot of people learn on the job. This isn't rocket science. However, there is value in having a deeper understanding of the concepts, the financial concepts, the legal concepts, the investment strategies, the portfolio management, and learning that in a more compact fashion than on the job so that you can actually better position yourself for advancement. And I do believe that most graduate programs in real estate see themselves as being a platform for launching advanced careers, not necessarily starting a career. But because I believe that there is a great opportunity to train talent to start out in this industry with more knowledge than many of us did, we also have an undergraduate major in real estate. And that's to actually help us develop that pipeline of future leaders. And we're really proud of being able to do that at the Institute in the city of Chicago, which I think is one of the most phenomenal real estate laboratories in the world. And want to have students participate in that, engage with the leaders in this industry who are in Chicago and making a difference, and then having us help them move forward to be successful.
Yeah, we talked about it. You don't have to be highly educated to be a great real estate salesperson and
No.
make money. But
Just look at me.
Yeah, like you're not educated, but you're very intelligent. And a good salesperson doesn't need that advanced degree. But I think if you want to take yourself to the next level, to be
Yes.
something more than just a salesperson, I think the graduate degree really makes sense. So
I
we
think so
talked
too.
about this before. So in any event, so we're going to move on to Colette's presentation. Now, Collette has a very deep background in investment sales, as she had indicated. So she's going to be talking about what's going on with CRE investments during COVID and afterwards.
Thanks. So everybody knows that the commercial real estate industry has been somewhat stymied by how to react to what's going on with COVID. There was the concern about the multifamily industry getting rents as people were losing their jobs. There's been a concern about the office market as the work from home push and shelter in place has basically emptied out virtually every office building in the country. We've got the issues of retail. Who's shopping right now? Retail was already challenged, but now it's like, why do you have to buy anything other than groceries? And we're noticing with the loss of business travel and leisure travel, the damage that's being inflicted in the hospitality industry. All of that has caused both winners and losers, but we are far from the end of the game. The industrial market has boomed during all of this, as e-commerce has actually helped advance the development and occupancy of space. We have seen multi-housing actually show an incredible resilience as really rent collections, even through November, were around 90% overall across the country, far higher than many people expected. But yet, there are real concerns in where to place your money. You want to buy something, you want to invest in something, how do you underwrite it? What are the challenges? So just thinking about how the negatives right now are so overwhelming. Are CBDs dead? What is going on with office? Will it ever recover to the sort of density and utility that we were used to? The impact that the empty office space is having on ancillary businesses in CBDs is just mind-boggling. I'm in Chicago, and I see every day the toll that this sort of work from home model is having on every aspect of the economy, especially small businesses who cannot survive without the office tenancy around. Residential. Are people actually leaving cities in order to move to the suburbs? Is this a trend that is irreversible? Is this telling us that living in downtown central business districts is no longer going to be the case? And if that is the case, what do we do with all these high-rise apartment buildings we've built, or the condos that people are now leaving in order to move to their suburban or their second vacation home? What do you do about retail? Retail has been challenged for years. It is truly one of those sectors that many people attribute to being under demolished, not necessarily overbuilt. And even Black Friday showed that there's a real weakness that will continue in the retail sector. But retail has been a market that many investors have spent significant dollars in and are struggling with. What do you do with department stores that are now vacant? What do you do with indoor malls, which seem to be faring far more negatively than outdoor fresh air malls? Restaurants, entertainment venues, those tie also into the impact of leisure, people leaving their homes and going into restaurants, going to the mall, going to the movies. These are spaces that people have invested in significant dollars, and yet those income streams are highly periled at this stage. And then hotels and convention centers, impacted by the lack of business travel. There hasn't been a convention that anyone has been to since February, and we're not really sure when those are going to come back online. The other side of the investment strategy challenge is property taxes. Values have dropped for many asset classes, but their property values for assessment purposes have not. And their income is under assault, but yet their real estate taxes are solid and are not likely to change dramatically because of the impact it has on city budgets. How do you underwrite that? How do you actually determine what you're willing to pay with all of these risks on the table? We've got to look at what's going to be the sticky effect and where the opportunities will be going forward. So yes, anything related to business and leisure travel probably needs to be looked at with incredible circumspection. It's going to take a while for this to sort itself out. Even though more people traveled at Thanksgiving than anybody expected, and if something likely will be like that for Christmas, this is not the sort of travel that hotels, airlines, and convention centers have been expecting. They are not going to see that return for another 3 to 5 years. And I know that we're going to talk about this more, but that is a challenge that needs to be underwritten because it ripples through the economy and impacts every other aspect of the industry. We're going to have increased vacancy in office, especially in cities and potentially also in suburban markets, as companies adjust to a flexible work life, that there will be more people working from home more regularly, even when we get past the everybody's at home model. How do you underwrite that, and what impact does that have on rent and on available income and value? We also have the issue of under demolished space again, and that's going to be the retail universe that we're going to have to struggle with, and the many, many restaurants and entertainment venues that will not reopen. Reduced city revenues will have an impact on how they search for funds elsewhere. And that's going to be a long-term problem. And cities are currently revisiting their budgets and trying to find other ways to bring in revenue that will impact values. And then there's the fear factor. And I hate to say it, but it's there. And we're going to be struggling with this till we get to the other side of COVID. So we have to think about opportunities. How are we going to find space? How are we going to deal with office space that needs to be reconfigured? Affordable housing is going to be increasingly important and will continue to be a growth opportunity for investment. Redevelopment is a driver in every sector of this industry, be it office, suburban, urban, multifamily, single family, retail, small businesses, every aspect of this industry will have a prime opportunity for redevelopment. And that will provide some real chance for value creation. And we have to look at what Generation Z is going to want to do. They're the generation that's going to drive so much of what happens in this industry for the next 20 to 30 years. We've got to understand how they want to work, how they want to live, and actually look at those drivers as being the backbone for new investment opportunities. Thanks, Howard.
Wow, well, that's a mouthful. And let me get, boy, I don't even know where to start because you provided a lot of information and you were almost exactly on time. Peter, do you have any comments?
That is a lot to unpack, and I think, I think that Collette, succinctly put what the industry is looking at right now, which is, I don't know what's going on, and we won't know for a while yet. I actually have a question because we have three distinguished brokers, former brokers, current brokers on the panel today. And that is, I know, I said former broker. So slightly off topic, but on topic. Do you think, given all this upheaval in commercial real estate, now's a good time to be in commercial real estate?
Yeah.
Personally, yes.
Yeah, Michael?
Well, for everything I said, we face a lot of challenges, but anyone that really wants to, look at a bit of self-interest, if you're willing to work, you get to remake the world. Basically, that's it. And that's basically the nature of my articles and everything else. But it's going to take work. It's going to take real cold calling. It's going to take contacting clients and non-clients. It's going to take, you must live real estate and you must speak about it as you move about this plane. Collette, I want to ask you a question. Do you know Steven Soderloff?
No, I don't.
Steven Soderloff from Walton Street Capital.
Oh, I know a couple of people at Walton Street, but I don't know Steve.
Yeah, he's a senior principal and managing director. His brother in New Jersey is pretty good too. I like him, Peter. I know his brother. We've had a couple of conversations, but I don't know. I just thought I'd ask you that.
We're all real estate people, so I would imagine that none of us are going to say it's not a good time to be in real estate, and all of us have been around long enough where there are some people who are going to suffer, and then there are going to be some people who are going to be taking advantage of the opportunities.
Wherever there's chaos, there's opportunity, Howard.
Yeah.
Always.
That's what my mindset is on right now. For one, there are going to be people that get hurt in this business, no question. The only difference to this versus some of the other recessions and downturns that I know, you, Howard, and I imagine Dr. Weiss and Collette and Michael have all been through, is as one of your guests on a previous show said, this is the great hibernation. And on the other ones, it was just fairly narrow. Interestingly enough, 2008, 2009 was a relatively narrow event. COVID is so wide sweeping that it's affecting every industry, everywhere, and every person everywhere across the planet. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. So you just have to be smart and sharp and keep your eyes open.
Yeah, Dr. Wise, your thoughts?
Well, this is our fifth rodeo. We were involved in the VMS Realty bankruptcy back in 1989, 1990. There was a $6.5 billion workout, $8 billion at the end of the day. We were involved very actively during the RTC debacle. And regrettably, what I see on the horizon here is what I'm going to call the RTC debacle on steroids. Mm-hmm. I was closing I was closing a distressed hotel every 3 weeks during the RTC debacle for 6 years. And I see this one, as I said, regrettably being worse than that.
Oh, now that's of concern. That's of concern. So let's move on. Let's have Dr. Wise. I'm going to introduce you. I don't need to introduce you. So we're going to move on to your discussions where you're going to go into a little bit more specifics than Collette, specifically having to do with hospitality. So why don't you tell us where hospitality is? And we know it's bad, but you gave me a list of all kinds of meteors hitting the earth. And but then the next question is, where do we go from there? So you may want to mention all of that bad stuff that you said to me, or some of it.
Well, thank you, Howard. I mean, the bottom line is the hotel industry is in a totally dysfunctional mode right now. Today, nearly every hotel, certainly any hotel that has debt on it, hotel resort throughout the United States, is in violation of at least one loan covenant. The most serious being falling below, debt coverage ratios, normally about a 1.4. There's approximately $375 million worth of hotel debt in the United States. That's a lot. And since the last downturn that was just mentioned, commercial real estate lenders have generally not been active sellers of mortgages. But that's all changed. Since March of 2020, we've seen over $6 billion of commercial real estate mortgages sold by lenders who are both repositioning their balance sheets and their portfolios. Approximately $300 million of that debt is held by local banks, regional banks. It's not held by the Wells Fargos and the B of A's. About $75 million of that debt is CMBS against hotels. According to TREP, CMBS forbearance right now has risen to $31.2 billion, encompassing about 800 loans. About 64% of those forbearances are on hotels. That's about $19.9 billion of just CMBS hotel debt that's currently in forbearance. As we all know, forbearance is coming to an end here for most of those very shortly. TREP further estimates that 12% of all CMBS loans are going to be foreclosed. In a recent survey, 66% of U.S. hotel owners feel that they are in danger of foreclosure by their lenders, losing their hotels, according to the American Hotel Lodging Association. It's a huge number. That's 38,000 hotels, There's been difference, what I call slicing and dicing, between the different types of hotels. The full service hotels, the group hotels, Collette was alluding to, very, very difficult. 61% drop in revenue since March. Limited service hotels, a little bit better, about a 44% drop. Extended stay properties have actually done pretty well, considering about a 35% drop. As everyone on this call show has said today, it's too early, way too early, to know what the devastation in our industry or the rest of the commercial real estate industry is going to be. We won't know that to the backside of this pandemic, this black swan, until, at least in my opinion, 3 to 5 years. Short term, long term, what's the future of hospitality? Well, property owners have options right now, and they're not easy options, but they have to be proactive. They include A, if a hotel has a value, let's say Simple Simon, in excess of about $20 million in 2019, and they have reasonable debt, let's say no more than about 50%, they're a candidate to entertain a preferred equity injection of fresh liquidity, fresh cash from a new partner. If the owner has multiple properties, they can consider the same venue preferred equity, secured against their portfolio, probably with a few carve-outs. Not all of their hotels are probably doing that badly. If an owner has multiple properties, maybe he sells one or two. That may be the answer to create some liquidity. For the larger urban hotels that are in the large group houses that Collette also had mentioned, one answer to the riddle may be a bifurcation of the fee simple title, create a new ground lease with the permission of the lender, of course, which will additionally create some liquidity for that ownership. If they are able to get that fresh equity, what are they going to do with it? What are the priorities? Well, the first priority, of course, is let's call it 4 different buckets. One bucket of funds assures that they're going to have the cash available for debt service, knowing that most hotels do have a seasonality issue as far as their cash flow. Second bucket should be replacement of the FF&E reserve. They probably cannibalize that FF&E reserve, which is required by the lender, by the way, in most cases, to keep the hotel alive to where it is today before they find that fresh injection of fresh cash, that fresh equity. Then they should have another bucket, a third bucket, and that bucket has to be for property taxes, making sure they continue to pay their transient occupancy taxes on time. Maybe they've got some mechanics liens from a grumpy laundry purveyor or something. That needs to be settled. And then lastly, number 4, if they're a long-term owner and they have a long-term perspective, they should consider doing a renovation. Now that sounds a little contrarian, but think about it. 3 things are going to happen when you do a renovation. First, you're going to get your occupancy back faster. Second, your ADR is not going to be as hammered as much because most rates are being hurt by competitors dropping rates and so forth. So you're going to maintain your ADR and do a better job of keeping it where it used to be. Don't expect a bump right away, but certainly keep it where it used to be. And lastly, the most important thing is you're probably going to cannibalize the market. You're going to be the only hotel spending money, and you're going to cannibalize market share that was out previously going to other hotels that are not coming to your hotels. A hotel sale is the most least desirable for any hotel owner, but at least has to be considered. But no hotel owner could consider that option until they consult with their hospitality investment professionals to understand what their options are. Generally speaking, hotels are worth about 75% of what they were, let's say, December of 2019. And if the debt is at 70%, guess what? They may not have very much equity. But still might be better off by selling the hotel, even if they only get pennies or nickels on the dollar, to avoid the draconian issues of their credit being severely destroyed, and having the issue of federal and state tax issues, depreciation, recapture, and so forth and so on when the foreclosure. So these are all very thorny issues, and the need is for proactivity. We can't be lackadaisical on these issues. When will the tsunami start? What time is it? It's like any day. Maybe it started already. May I go on a second longer, Howard?
Sure. I think we've got some time.
Yeah, just real quickly. I just want to give a quick crystal ball. The gap between buyers and sellers' expectations will start changing as owners are no longer under forbearance and have the strain of having to service debt. Lenders will lend, but there's going to be a premium over the pre-COVID pricing, probably by 200 to 300 basis points. And I think, generally speaking, we can expect no new CMBS debt or construction debt for probably about 2 years. In the short term, not so good. In the long term, 3 to 5 years, we'll come back. Probably not until 2023 as far as occupancy, probably not until 2024 as far as average daily rate. For Hawaii, probably a little bit longer, maybe 2006. And as I think Collette mentioned, it's a K-shaped recovery with a W component, the W being the lockdowns and other we're seeing in California and other right now. The losers are the hotels and resorts, the cruise lines, the airlines, the restaurants, movie theaters, the arts. But 2022 will be the year of substantial recovery. And I think with that, Howard, thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you for talking about that. But I have, if I may, ask a question. You spoke primarily from the owners of hospitality. What about, as you had written, using your phrase, the dry powder out there? There's going to be a lot of money out there. You suggested that people should be proactive, but the question is, are they going to be too aggressive? So should they be looking to invest now? Should they be investing 6 months or 12 months? Looking now is not a bad idea, by the way.
I'm sorry, Howard, I think you misunderstood my point. When I talk about proactive, I'm talking about a borrower that is facing imminent foreclosure, etc. They have to be
Yes.
proactive, not have their head in the sand. One of the biggest challenges we have is that between forbearance what I facetiously call forbearance 1.0, and then PPP, and then we then had forbearance 2.0, and then up until the election, everyone said, well, the Fed's going to come out with some 3% loan program and they're going to save us. Well, we're not the airlines. Yes, we have a Marriott, and yes, we have a Hilton, yes, we have a Hyatt, but we're a business of lots and lots and lots of owners. We have 19,600 members just in AHOA, for heaven's sakes. Lots and lots of owners. And the odds of some sort of a bill that's going to save us from the federal government, I wouldn't take that bet.
No.
So when I say proactivity, Howard, I'm talking about a borrower needs to plan ahead, be realistic. They're doing their pro formas right now as far as how 2021 is going to look like. And I can tell you, there isn't a person on the planet that's very happy about that pro forma right now.
Can I jump on Howard's question and say,
Go ahead,
okay,
and
so
then Micahel.
if I'm an investor, if I've got money, hold off until the end of forbearance 2.0 to put myself in the best position, hold off till 2021, end of 2021, and look at that uptick in 2022. What should I do?
I don't want to be a bear here, but I think it's time to wait.
Yeah.
The dry powder needs to be patient. Again,
However,
we need to get a better sense of what's going on here. We're still early in this thing. We're still trying to figure this pandemic out. The wheels are going to start falling off the truck on lots and lots and lots of deals. But if I were dry powder, I would not be anxious to invest right now. I'd be watching, as Howard said, surveying the markets, taking the temperature on different sellers and so forth. But I would not be overly anxious to jump in.
Yeah,
Micahel.
listen, I would like to say this. The clientele that I encounter are exactly the dry powder set, meaning, well, one instance, I've been charged to go, acquire $100 million worth of loans. So I started like about, 6 months ago, right when this thing started. Now, I was offered discounts, I would say, by City Mortgage. I'll just say who it is. They're like, yeah, well, we don't know why you're calling, but we may give you a 5 to 10% off par or whatever the note rate was, or value. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of light. We're going to have to do better. So we're going to have to get in position now. You're going to have to know you have your money. You can do all the studying in the world. You better step up because a lot of people have money. It's not just some guy. People, what are you going to do with money now? You're not going to do nothing with it. What are you going to do with it? Weimar Republic? Quantinium X? So you need to get in position now. So now listen, what if, just rule of thumb, a Dr. Wise, what discount would you go in just saying all areas were considered equal? What would you call a rule of thumb? Am I good at 50%?
On a note, yes. On a hospitality, you're not going to get that deep a discount, generally speaking. I think the discounts are generally
5 to 10.
What we saw at the end of the last downturn, 2007, 2010. Overall, it was a 27% discount on hotels. Right now, we're saying 25.
This is different. This is disaster and unknown recovery.
Well, no, there is a known recovery. It's just the vaccine is not the answer to the riddle there necessarily, because the vaccine, Pfizer has already gone on record that they can only produce 12.5 million vaccines in 2021, and unless things have changed, there's still 330 million Americans. So there's other issues.
And I dumped Pfizer this morning at $41, and they came out today and said, "Oh, we can't get enough vaccine out," and the thing plummeted. Now it's trying to get back to 40, stay at 40. You know what? We don't know what's going to go on here. Really, we don't. Pandemic insurance. Nothing's going to happen until we get pandemic guarantee. The government's going to have to carry this, or create something that every lease has. It was a triple net lease or something, or I don't know, an add-on in a gross lease. Call it what you want. Insurance. Everybody pays it. Healthcare for all for the buildings.
Right.
Collette, you had a point that you wanted to make.
I was going to say that the whole dry powder concept I think it kind of depends on if you're an institution or if you're an individual, because I think there are some classes of hotels similar to what you were, saying, Dr. Wise. There is the range from the, uber elite, top of the market, full service hotel, not convention. It could be the Waldorf Astoria, or it can be, I don't, just name a Ritz Carlton or whatever. There are people who definitely are queuing up to take advantage of distress and picking up some assets at some incredible numbers right now, with the assumption that this new price paradigm is going to buy them time, right, for recovery. And I think that will continue to show itself in some markets for some asset classes. I think anything that's on any profile, hotels not being any different, that's kind of run of the mill, anything that's just way down the middle of the fairway and just kind of is not something you would want to take a bet on right now, because how the market's going to respond to that kind of run of the mill asset is probably more difficult to speculate on and underwrite than something that's perceived to be the best of the best at a great discount.
So what would you say the discount is today? I walk in with a bag of money. Okay, I'm here, whatever, call the lawyers. Let's cut it up. Rule of thumb for my approaches to each institution that I approach. How would you do it if you were me?
Are you talking about buying a loan or buying the real property?
No, I'm thinking about buying a loan. I want to go in and buy the broken loan. Pardon me?
Assuming that these assets are not over levered. I mean, they were not over levered. They're at a point where, they could still be at a 60% loan to value situation or a 50% loan to value. They're protected. And if you're a lender and you believe you are protected in that value, maybe if their model is we just don't want to own it, I wouldn't see that they should give you a lot on a top of the market asset. On a run of the mill asset, talk 75%, talk a 25% discount.
25, okay, that's good. But what about from a fiduciary responsibility as officers of a corporation facing unknown instances of income surety? I mean, what do you do in a case like that? Hey, let's dump this and go. So that's my front sell to these guys sitting here.
I'd like to cut in right now, if you don't mind.
I think we're being a little bit overly simplistic here, but that's okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, what if we don't have any facts? We're making it up.
Michael,
we have facts. We have facts. I'm sorry, Howard. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, Michael, you're asking very important question, honestly, but it's kind of like the question in buying and selling commercial real estate. How do you value commercial real estate? As a realtor, I know that, actually I'm not a realtor. I'm a real estate broker and I'm an attorney. But I know everybody relies upon cap rates, etc. But the guys who really, really make money, they balance all kinds of factors, which frankly I don't understand. But you're asking a good question that frankly we don't have the time to answer today.
Oh, I know, but that's the quandary. That's all I'm
it is a fair. I don't know the answer. It is a fair quandary. Not only that, one of our audience members, Edward Kim, asks a great question, which is probably 2 or 3 webinars worth, or at least certainly one full webinar, which are what are the ways to find the value, value add opportunities, hospitality, retail, office. Edward, I can't answer that. Not only can I not answer that, but I don't think that can be answered.
I can answer it.
Okay.
I can answer it. Go cold calling.
Go cold calling.
Cold calling.
Yeah, well, that's true. No, that's true. That is a good answer. It's being a good real estate broker.
Yeah, there's a whole other webinar here, and Michael's brought it up, and we should do that at some point in time in the future, Howard. And that is, we're talking about dry powder, we're talking about the asset classes, but there is another asset class, and that's called money. and loans and buying notes. And I think that when we talk about dry powder and things of that nature, I have a couple of institutional clients, pension fund clients, and they're sitting on it and waiting for it to happen. I think we should do a show just dedicated to that. And I know we're pretty close to running out of time here. And you still have a question for the audience too.
Yes, I do. Let's go to the trivia. For the audience members, you have to answer this correctly. The first person who writes in the comment, except I feel like I'm like a barker at a carnival show where all of the games are kind of rigged for you to lose. So if you get this one, you've earned the $25 card. So here we go. The question is, in 1997, Pepsi sold a replica of what building? And you're all frozen.
Yeah, the counter stop is already at 0.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to give everybody an opportunity. This is not an easy question. I do a lot. Not only do I do a lot of research to find these questions, but I choose the ones that are not really obvious.
Yeah, well, you know what's happening right now, Howard. Everyone's going on to Google. And
yeah, that's all right.
all the audience is going on to Google.
Okay,
so let's turn it back to our panelists and see if they've got the answer before you give the answer. Anybody on our panel have the answer to that one?
No clue.
Okay. Howard, go for it.
Answer is, in 1997, Pepsi held a contest to win a life-size replica of the Simpson house, or $75,000. The winners chose the $75,000. Yeah, you're right. As a result, Pepsi renovated the house to look like a normal house and then resold it. So I enjoyed that one. I was hoping. With that being said, let's move on to the final LinkedIn links, except that Collette, because I messed up her link, she has her email that you can send an email to. Otherwise, you can see everyone here. I have to begin to wrap this up. Peter, thank you very much as usual. Collette, I'm so glad you didn't wear green today. That's an inside joke between Collette and I.
Yes.
Dr. Wise, I'm glad that I finally had you on this show. And Michael, thank you very much. You did a great job. And we'll talk to you about some of those questions that you asked. They're good questions to ask. So everyone, you have a safe and happy holiday season. We do have an upcoming show on December 17th. And I forgot who the people are. I probably should have prepared for that. And on December 16th, I have a webinar with Dr. Lammy or Ken Lammy. And we're going to be talking about due diligence, forensic due diligence in purchasing and selling of properties. You all take care. Have a great evening. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, and pleasure sitting with each one of you. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Our pleasure.